want the pathways need to be redone. All the irrigation really needs to be redone. We probably need to redo the electricity that I have running through the property for decorating and all that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, here we go.
okay.
For real this time.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for your patience today. I know it's been very annoying, but they did an update last night, and I don't even know if you heard this to begin with, but they did an update last night, the computer guys, not our guys, the computer guys, and it's just glitching all over the place. But Kenneth made a very important point earlier, so I'm going to let him make that point again.
Yeah, just, I can think of one thing that doesn't need updates and gets glitchy, and that's this.
Exactly, exactly. But there is something else on the horizon that's really glitchy and really dangerous, and I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. Could we please have the chart up, please? This chart shows that a large amount of software debt is coming due between 26 and 2030, with a peak around 28 and 29. This is the private equity debt that is giving, wow. I mean, they have hypothecated and rehypothecated those assets so many times, but this is the kind of crap that they want to put in your 401k. You have any thoughts on this? I mean, look at that. That is a wall of debt on the way to these companies that aren't earning enough money to pay that debt.
Yeah, it's all speculative companies that are, the cryptos and into high tech, and they've never produced any kind of revenue and possibly never will.
But wait, aren't there valuations in the billions of dollars?
Yeah, right, because you can drop the word AI at the end of your conference call and suddenly after hours you're skyrocketing to the moon.
But a lot of this particular debt is from those private placements.
Oh, yeah.
So do you know how they get the valuations?
Of the private placements?
Uh-huh.
No, how do they do that?
It's whatever anybody is willing to invest in, and they say, oh, now it's worth this because this much more money was put in.
Oh.
Even though they have no revenues, even though they use their own valuations and their own judgments in that, yeah, you could trust them. They certainly have your best interest at heart. This wouldn't be a risk transfer. But even though these are private placements, it's also that the banks have loaned these companies a lot of money. So, the whole system is based on debt and leverage, and it's all incestuously intertwined. So this is a huge crisis, frankly, just waiting to happen. But that's not the only thing that I wanted to really talk about today. We got to talk also about Anthropic's mythos, and it should be a wake-up call to everybody. Why? Because they can't release it to the general public because of the dangers inherent and the power that they don't even know that reach.
Yeah, and I think it showed how many security flaws there are in these digital accounts that everybody has. Banks would probably have a huge problem on their hands when they realize, hey, your credit card can just be hacked like that.
And not only that, but even with the quantum computing coming in, I mean, you think your cryptocurrencies are so safe? No, they're not.
Yeah.
What did you say couldn't be hacked?
Real
Ta-dum. Right?
Pretty simple.
Physical sound money. Ta-dum. So we definitely have to pay attention to this story because their preference, theirs being central banks and governments, is for everything, all of your wealth to be held in these systems and all of your money, your paycheck, your everything to flow through them.
Yeah.
What happens if the system says no?
Well, we've also kind of seen that start to unfold with everything from the Blue Owl, the BlackRock, Morgan Stanley capping those redemptions. The system has the ability to say no, and at that point, you're just kind of in for the ride.
You have no choice. That's why a properly balanced portfolio, if you're going to have intangibles, you got to do what you're comfortable doing, regardless of what anybody says. However, a properly diversified portfolio also contains this sound money, physical gold, and physical silver outside of the system and some level of cash, right? The strategy that we execute here is designed for short-term emergencies and to sustain your current standard of living, as well as protect those assets that you've accumulated, those fiat money assets that you've accumulated, and then put you into a position to even broaden your wealth and then generate income on the other side of this mess.
Right. Yeah, that's the beauty of an exit strategy and having that in place. So you're not trying to figure that out in the middle of a currency reset.
No, there is no exit strategy. If you haven't put everything in place and we go into hyperinflationary event, I just don't know how you can really catch up.
Right.
And that's why creating that surety that is not in the system that anybody can hack, food, water, energy, security itself, barterability, which for me is primarily silver, but not only silver, because anything physical or any talent that you have, well, what are we doing but bartering that, right? Wealth preservation, which for me is primarily gold, and actually even the slabbed gold. That's my personal, most of my wealth is held in that, as well as community, which is critically important, arguably the most important thing that we talk about here, as well as shelter. These are the things that we need so that if anything like the system shuts down, you can weather that storm. If everything you have inside is inside of the system and it shuts down, what do you do? Do you remember 2020 when you couldn't go to the grocery store and find toilet paper, for goodness sakes?
Right.
Let alone food? It only impacted me because I couldn't get my avocados. Up north, when we put in the tropical hothouse, I will have my avocados, so that won't even impact me.
Right.
But what I really wanted to talk about today, and you guys, you are hearing it first because I just heard it this morning, so I kind of changed things around a little bit. But the United Arab Emirates is leaving OPEC and OPEC Plus, and the plus is with Russia, and that's effective May 1st. And what's today? April
28th
or something like that. Something like that. I don't know what days are anymore. But this is significant. Why is this significant? Well, not just because we do know that OPEC and OPEC Plus has controlled the price of oil by releasing more or not. Of course, the Strait of Hormuz being a choke point, that's changed everything. But the UAE breaking off, what that really is a continuation. The reason why I'm smiling is because the trend that started with the supply and demand cycle in gold that started a year ago, last January, this is the next piece to fall, because it'll give the whole OPEC and OPEC Plus, they've now lost all their power because they have one large producer that is more concerned about making more money for themselves because of the supply and demand issue. You know, it goes back to that affordability piece as well. This to me is I can't even tell you how big a deal it is. So what did we recently have? We recently had consumer sentiment, 2-3 weeks ago, consumer sentiment fall to the lowest level ever. How long have we been talking about paying attention to that?
Yeah, right. That being the final leg that's really holding this system up is that consumer confidence piece. And so when that starts to falter, and to the point of the UAE leaving OPEC and OPEC Plus, that's also showing that their confidence in what they're trying to make the most of their money on is falling as well. I think to me, it looks like what happens at the end of a currency's life cycle.
You're 100%
that's-
correct.
right.
The systems that were put in place to control everything suddenly don't work anymore. They start to fall apart.
Right.
We saw this with the gold and silver physical to paper markets starting last January. There's still huge premiums in different parts of the world that are going like, no, we've got a different profile for demand than all of the paper that you can shoot the gun if you want, because they can just make as much of this as they want to at will.
Yeah.
Oh, you're being nice.
Well,
Tom needs exercise.
I know he's got to. It's fine. We have more time. We can shoot the gun more.
We probably will. But I want you guys to note what is happening, because this is another leg on the very flimsy fiat money stool to fall apart. It is an evolution of that trend that started with gold and silver in early 2025. It wasn't that was then, this is now. That was the start. This is another leg in it. And when you hear about that affordability factor, what's going to happen? More than likely, and in addition to, we should talk about tariffs too, so don't let me forget that, because I want to come back to that in a second. But, when we're looking at what's happening with oil, oil goes into everything.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean for consumers? It means higher inflation. That's what it means. And what does that mean for the markets? Higher inflation means that consumers are more pessimistic.
Right.
Now, there was a report that came out this morning how something with consumer sentiment bounced, blah, 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 blah. When a system is broken, when a support level is broken, it is simply broken, period. Just because there's a bounce or they make it look like there's a bounce doesn't change anything. So you guys, you have a major heads up. If you haven't already put your strategy in place and begun to execute it, get it done. You can call us and we'll walk you through based upon your goals. But make no mistake about it, this is the kind of stuff that I was waiting for, and it's going to escalate. And what'll happen to people when the inflation really rears its ugly head even worse? I got to do something. I asked Kelly to make me a graph. So I just asked her yesterday, but we'll have it probably by next week. And I'm going to show you the K-shaped economy. Consumer sentiment like that, and the stock market's making new highs. Yeah, that makes sense.
Where's all that wealth going?
Well, not to the one at the bottom of the K.
Right. Yeah. If it's going down, it's not going there. And to your point, like about with inflation and the tariffs, and now how companies are getting reimbursed the tariffs that they paid, but that's not going
back
us.
to the Wait a minute.
What is that?
Didn't you pay the price on the tariffs? Mm-hmm. Not going to you.
Right. Yeah. So why do you think they were able to get away with that?
Because nobody's complaining.
Mm.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that's why if you convert your garbage fiat into sound money, gold, and silver, that's your voice. You are voting with that voice, and you can make choices based on that voice. But if you don't use your voice, then, and that's the goal.
Right.
The goal is for this to happen in a way that there's no way for you to protect yourself. So I'm telling you, be proactive.
Yeah.
Be proactive. Food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, local, to create surety and all that, because there's power in numbers and everybody comes together with different skill sets to support the whole.
Right.
Right? And shelter, because you got to have a place to make your last stand.
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing the tariff thing up again.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
let's go ahead and do the questions.
Sure.
Okay. So, you're making me dizzy. Okay. Iron Mom Solo. Yeah, I know that feeling. I need some hope, Lynette. I need it badly right now. I have a lot of hope. Iron Mom, Mom Solo, I was an Iron Mom and a Mom Solo too. We can make this happen. Things can be better for you. You need to create surety in that. And that's what community is all about. You need some hope? Build that community around you, because that really is about people coming together and supporting each other. You bring in talents. Every single person on the planet has a gift. And I believe with all my heart that our job is to share those gifts with each other. I have a lot of hope. I've studied currencies and currency life cycles. I've talked to people around the world and will keep doing that. Those countries that are more akin to building community and supporting each other and having gardens and having all of those basic necessities, they're happier.
Yeah.
I watched this movie once, and I think anybody can get it on the internet. And the name of it is Babies. And what it did was it took like a pregnant woman from like at the end of her pregnancy through the first year of life of the baby. And there was a family in San Francisco, Mongolia, somewhere in Africa, and in the U.S. And it was the most interesting study because the child in the U.S. had all sorts of goodies and the parents were there and they were playing in the pool and blah, 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 blah. The child in Japan had tons and tons of goodies, but not a whole lot of interaction with the parents and was very frustrated. The kids in Mongolia, he had a little older brother who actually wheeled his younger brother out into the desert and left him because he was jealous. And he was constantly trying to get his mother's attention. But you know the baby that was the happiest of all of them was the baby in Africa. And all he had was a rock. That's what he had to play with.
Wow.
You know, but it was a community. So you had the wet nurses. So all the babies that needed to nurse, it didn't matter which wet nurse, which woman it was the community raising the babies.
Right.
That made, I probably saw that film, I don't even know, maybe 10 or 20 years ago, but it stuck with me because it was about community.
Right. Yeah.
And when we went to Cambodia last year, that's what we saw there too. The people are happy, but that's because they're surrounded by community. And it's that community that gives me personal hope because
Right.
I know that we can do this together. And Iron Mom, Mom Solo, anything we can do to help support your efforts, you let us know, you know, because you're inside of a community right now. And it's not just us, and it's not just you. You are not alone. You are not alone. None of us are alone. And we're all here to be of service. So however we can, that's what you do in a community.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have so many amazing people just at Zang International that have so much different talents. It's a great community just even within the walls of the office, you know?
It is. You liking the new office?
Yeah. It's amazing.
It is amazing. It is amazing. So if any of you guys come into Phoenix, I'm going to tease you a little bit because I haven't really told anybody else. Like Tom doesn't know this. This was just something that we had a meeting last night with somebody. But we are now planning, I will release the date soon. We are now planning our first live event in the amphitheater downstairs.
Nice.
So, and it's not that, it's far enough off that we can pull it together. Even if our offices aren't fully decorated, I'm pretty sure you guys will understand and that won't be a problem.
Yeah.
But if you're coming to Phoenix, we're going to be doing it and probably speaking a little out of turn, but we kind of have to lock in the dates. So
Right.
as soon as I know that it's absolute, but it's going to be in June.
Oh, wow.
Right.
There you go. That's soon.
That's soon. It's going to be in June, and I'm so I really am so excited about this.
Yeah.
So you guys are the first ones to know. I haven't even talked to our production team about it yet. Surprise!
Right after the live today, they're going to go down there and start getting everything set up.
Probably so, but I'm really glad that we're going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So mark your calendars. I'll let you know what the date is. Probably next week or the week after, we'll be able to give you a final date. We've just got to check on some things, make sure it's even available on the dates that we want.
Right.
So bear with us, but it's coming. So just know that we're planning on doing it in June. If you have a holiday coming up, it would be toward the beginning of June, not the end of June. And hopefully we'll see a lot of you there. But we'll do the live from there. So you guys, even if you can't be here, you'll be able to watch and ask questions. But we have a 150-seat amphitheater.
Wow. Yeah.
So do you think we can fill it?
Yeah, easily.
Do
There's going to
you?
be a lot
I
of
hope
questions,
so.
though. A lot of questions are going to be asked live.
It's fun. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Finally.
Yeah.
So, all right. Colleen Allen, 3382 says, "Hi, Lynette. I heard that the smelters couldn't get enough money loaned to them because spot prices are so high. True? Yeah, if they don't have enough deep pockets, the entire system is really built on leverage, debt and leverage. So that's kind of the problem when you're working with a smaller company, because they're going to have more limitations. I mean, we're working with several wholesalers.
Yeah.
So it's a deep pool of liquidity.
Right. Yeah. Multiple different avenues to go, right, if we need to.
Exactly. All different ways to liquidate. So, this is kind of the point in the way that we set things up so that we would always have that liquidity for you guys, even if you didn't buy the stuff from us. It's a bit faster if you did, because then our wholesalers don't question what it is. But we can still liquidate from anybody. That was like the first question that I asked when I was interviewing wholesalers, because it's important. It's important for many reasons. So GS Puppies 3230 asked, "Lynette, we missed your puppy when you were traveling. If they will print their way out of debt," and I missed my puppy too, and I watched her a lot. And Hayden Fry isn't here today, but we do have a mascot. It's not my puppy that's a Great Dane, but it is a little wiener dog, and he is written into the lease. He is the only dog that's allowed in this facility, in this building. And to top it off, so if you ever come here, you can actually see this for yourself. But there's actually a doggy door, as you well know, between Jacqueline's office and Marie's office. And there are beds and food bowls and everything in both of those offices.
Yeah, you can always tell where he's been. There's a trail of dog treats just kind of lining wherever he's at.
Really? I thought Jacqueline was more strict on who. She wouldn't let me give him any chicken at lunch yesterday.
Oh, my.
I know. And he
was
looked
probably
at me
heartbroken.
he was.
Yeah, he was heartbroken.
He looked at me like, I can always count on you for goodies.
Yeah,
But she was sitting right there. I couldn't get away with it. I tried.
He is the mascot, though, for sure. He's on the website, too.
Yeah.
Actually, you can see him on the video on the website.
Yes, and I missed my puppy too, and I'm very glad to be home with her. And she is I call her my Velcro dog, because she is just with me constantly. And in fact, she acts like it's a punishment if I ask her to go out, and I don't go with her. I have to go out with her.
Right, yeah.
It's crazy. Anyway, if they will print their way out of debt, wouldn't it make sense I get long-term real estate loans so that likewise gets devalued? Okay, number one, you create the debt, or the government creates the government creates the debt to create the money. So you cannot solve a too much debt problem with even more debt. Having said that, that's part of the big strategy which is the government strategy, is repaying this debt with dollars that have less and less value, because you're by the guns. The more they print, the less value all of the money out there has. You like doing that, don't you?
Well, I mean, it doesn't get any less fun every time, I'll tell you that much.
No, it doesn't. So the long term, it's to repay those dollars. And part of it is, we have an advantage here in the U.S. in that you can take out a 30-year mortgage. That's a beautiful thing.
At fixed rate.
At a fixed rate. You just have to have enough gold set aside to offset that mortgage so that when they do that first overnight revaluation, that's when you pay that debt off. When it's time to convert into income producing assets, we'll see, because we need to keep enough flexibility to shift as we might need to, but you're not going to do that with debt.
Right.
You're going to do that by converting this, either using this directly or by converting it into whatever the local currency happens to be and buying it. So no debt, but you get the income from it. So yes, it definitely does make sense. It's their plan. It's part of our plan.
Yeah.
And can we have thank you? Miramore asks, do you think gold will go down with all of it and then go back up? How will collectibles fare? Thank you. Actually, the way that it happens, and I've shown you this, but I don't have this set up today, is when they do that overnight reset, right? Then spot gold goes up, not directly to its fundamental value, but on the way to its fundamental value. On average, so I can't tell you that this is what's going to happen this time, but on average, when everything else goes down, stock markets, currency values, all of that, the spot gold will hang up there about 9 months-ish. So it's critically important, if you are working with us and you are executing the strategy, then you need to make sure that you have a good contact with your strategy specialist, because when it's time to start paying off that debt that we were just talking about, it needs to be precisely timed. So you need to be in communication, because if it's time to liquidate, and there's different ways that we're going to liquidate, and we have the ability to marry coins to create sets, which right now doesn't mean anything. But in a push to the physical markets, in the past, it's commanded up to a 30% premium. I don't know whether that's going to be the case or not, but we wanted to set everything up so that when it's time to exit our positions, I want every single avenue there is available to us, because our job at that point is to capture the most gain that we can, okay? So after that 9-month period, then typically, yes, it will drop down and reset like everything else, but it immediately starts to climb. I have shown you this in the past, and I can pull more charts. If you want me to, I can pull one for next week so that you can see what I'm talking about with that. But it immediately starts to climb faster and more than any of the other assets, because they still have a lot of garbage to work through.
Right.
So Ernest DeBella asks, I didn't finish answering that question. How will collectibles fare? That is a great question, because these are two separate markets, right? You have just you have the paper gold market, which is breaking down. Then you have the physical market, 33 different global users of it, and then you have the collectible market. Today, this raw coin is going to be impacted by the spot market, by the paper market, as well as the demand market. That's why you're seeing premiums in China. This market is and always has been purely a supply and demand market. So unless it's a coin with a very high population and low quality level, which has nothing to do with the gold content, it's the level of blemish, then this doesn't move with the spot market at all. And in fact, we've seen this over and over again, even during the great financial crisis, which you even have that chart. So if you want to see it for yourself, just call your strategy specialist and they can give you that chart where I did that comparison back then. So it's a different market. My expectation and anticipation is that this will hold up better than any markets that is guided by the paper. Though, keep in mind, that is breaking down. And that started in January of 2025. And like I said earlier, another piece of that puzzle was put in place with oil today, and it goes into effect in a few days.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a whole lot of notice, is it?
They just kind of surprised everybody with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But, what does it show? Desperate governments do desperate things, and they will do things to make themselves survive. So remember we talked about the layers of confidence, right? Bank-to-bank confidence went away in 2008. Central bank to central bank confidence went away in 2015. Market to central bank confidence went away in 2022. Is this country to country confidence?
Yeah, right. I mean, as it starts to become that consumer confidence piece, well, what makes up the country's GDP is the consumer. So,
Yep. So get ready. I can't tell you that it's going to be obvious to everybody on Tuesday at 8:35 in the morning, but it could.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the point of being prepared. What if I'm right? What if I'm wrong? If you are in a position that it really doesn't matter, rock and roll hoochie coo.
Right.
So I believe isn't it you, Ernest, that always asks me for the rock and roll hoochie coo? Somebody does. And in fact, I'm going to be doing the Plutus show on like May 8th, May 9th. And the first night they have a karaoke party
really?
thing. And I have been tasked with singing, that song, Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo.
I'll make sure to get the video footage.
Oh, God.
Somebody's going to be recording. So
Well, Josh is coming. So, yeah,
There
I'm
you go.
pretty sure he's going to be recording it.
That's funny.
But anyway, yeah, that'll be fun. So Ernest DeBella asks, what would revaluation of fiat dollars do to stock market, and how would that affect defined benefit retirement plans? Do those plans have clauses to lower payments when markets drop? Yeah, inside of all of these plans, what very well may happen is, well, first of all, if the money isn't there, then they can't really pay it out. So yes, there are clauses in here that is based on the claims paying ability of the entity. But a lot of what happens today and probably moving forward is that the defined benefit plan is given to the, I can't remember what that's called, but the government agency, and then whatever your payout was supposed to be, it is reduced based upon however much money they get. Now, I once had a client, well, I don't know if I call him, I guess he did do a little bit, so yeah, he was a client. He actually lived through that 3 times because he was a pilot. And so as different airlines that he was working for went out of business, then their defined benefit plan was given over to the government agency. And even after 3 times, he couldn't believe it could happen again.
Yeah, it's
I don't get it.
it happens with pensions. It happens with it's essentially, I know what government agency you're talking about. It's almost like the FDIC insurance of people's
Right.
Defined benefit plans, but it's based on how much funding do they have access to. And so when you've got a systemic breakdown of these defined benefit plans, of the purchasing power of the dollar, they don't have it all. They've got
No, they don't.
Yeah, no.
They're lucky if they have 70%.
Right.
And you know what? We haven't really done a piece on that in a while. I think it's a good idea to look at the pension plans.
Right.
And not just the pension plans, but the retirement plans again. Because there's defined benefit that, that was more the norm back in the day because they were trying to attract and keep talent. In my youth, I remember if you worked for IBM, you worked for them for your whole career.
Right.
My first husband, I wasn't married to him very long, but he worked for Florida Power and Light forever.
Yeah.
I mean, like his entire career, one place. Now, today, they say that people have to be prepared for 8 different careers.
Wow.
Right. And how fast are things changing? I'm glad I'm old. But So they took away the defined benefit, which actually puts the onus on the corporation, and they turned it into defined contribution. See the difference between the two? They sound pretty much the same.
But yeah, the devil's in the details with that. And speaking of that too, just a couple weeks ago, the U.S. Postal Service stopped contributing to those plans because they are cash strapped.
Yeah, I think we need to do a piece on it. You want to do it? Or you
Sure.
want me to do it? You can do it.
You do it, I do it. As
We'll
long
do
as
it
we get
together.
done.
We'll
There
do
you
it
go.
together. We'll do it together.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
So, do those plans have clauses? Yeah, those plans have clauses. The money's got to be there, or they can't pay it out because they can't really pull from taxpayer funding. So, yeah. Can we have the next question, please? Theodora asks, Lynette, when you speak of the mantra, you say water and energy. Can you be more specific? Water as in a well? It kind of depends. Like, I live in the middle of a city, and so I can't have a well in the middle of Phoenix. But I absolutely have a well at my bug out location, and I own the water rights. So there are a number of different ways. You just want to create security in there. You can have there's so many different ways to do it. A big, huge bladder. If you have a raised house, like I could probably do this because my house is raised, and there would be a bladder that would be filled from rain runoff and filtered and held in there. The way I've done it here in Phoenix is not with a bladder, but I put in additional rain catchments, so ponds, right? Which now I'm also growing tilapia and crawfish in those ponds, so it's also helping me generate food. But depending upon where you live, like this doesn't work in Phoenix, but it would work at my bug out or most other parts of the country. There are these inexpensive machines that can pull the water out of the air. And depending upon where you live and how much water is in the air can determine how much you can get and also the size of the machine.
Right, yeah.
Right? So it's water because you can't live without water, right? You can't grow food without water. You can't be sanitary without water. And we've got a real water crisis on our hands, especially with the rise of the data centers.
Yep.
Right? Here in Arizona, I think it's over by Florence, there is a community there. I don't remember the name of the community, but I know that I did a piece on it when I first found out about it, where they put in a data center and they sucked the water that was available for the community. It's not in the system. And so that whole entire community is on bottled water or hauled water.
Right, they gotta haul it in.
Yep. That was one of my prerequisites when I was looking for my bug out location and why I did not choose some because it was hauled water. Well, that's going to be a problem,
Yeah.
right? So we have to be conscious of that. But what I'm saying is you need to have water to live. So you want to create that security any way that you can. And energy. Well, what I mean by energy now, this was the first thing I did when I bought this property in 2010 was to attempt to put a completely off-grid solar system on there. I even had to get special waivers from APS and everything. Unfortunately, the person I hired didn't know what they were doing. So it just didn't work. But on my bug out location, that is solar with some natural gas backup. And in my property down here, what I'm doing is I'm putting in, and I have it up there too, what's that called? It's a generator, right? So I'm not as energy prepared down here in Phoenix, but I am absolutely energy prepared up there in my bug out location. So because, look around. That's another thing that these data centers are pulling is the energy. You want to live through blackouts and brownouts? As long as they only last a little while, you can keep your stuff frozen, your food frozen.
Yeah, they actually approved a data center in Utah that is going to consume more energy than the entire state of Utah consumes in a year. So per year.
Now, with all the lobbying and the deep pockets of all of these tech companies,
Yeah.
I don't know. Who do you think the laws are going to be designed to protect?
Right. Yeah. And that's why we look at who stands to gain the most. Those who write the rules or those who influence those who write the rules. And that's what our strategy is completely centered on.
Yeah.
What are those people doing?
That's it. You know, this has layers of protection.
Yeah.
Bullion does not have those same layers of protection. And, you know, it's not just that. You've got to look at what you need to have a reasonable standard of living. You've got to be able to keep your food fresh and cold.
Right.
Right? You've got to be able, I mean, could you live without lights? Probably. I mean, that's not that big a deal. But if you live in Phoenix and it's 122 degrees,
Yeah.
you got to have some air conditioning because you die.
Right.
Right? So you want to create surety in all those mantra areas. And that's, and what do you mean energy? So what I mean is the ability with energy, it's the ability to keep your freezers going and your refrigerators going and maybe a little bit of the lights and maybe a little bit of the air conditioning if you need it. There's certainly parts of the world that you probably don't need. You can live without that.
Right.
Not in Phoenix
Yeah.
at
Not
122
here.
degrees. So wait a minute. And the rest of the question also, is it correct for me to say we will no longer be able to obtain vitamins and supplements at some point during this whole mess? Yep. A medicinal garden, which we'll be showing you on soon, something we're working on. But a medicinal garden would be very, very important. And eating nutritionally dense. It's one big reason why I grow my own food. Yes, I do take supplements, but the food that I eat, because I know the soil,
Right.
I know the water, I know the care, I know the freshness, I know the quality, right? So you need to make sure that you can be eating as nutritionally dense as possible with as few, no additives, minimal processing. So, and let that, if that needs to be, then let that be your supplements. And Gia QI01 asks, if you buy a small village after evaluation, do you have to take in the debt as well? Same if you bought a city, since I guess any city village is in debt. Well, I would imagine it kind of depends on the deal that you make. I personally have never really thought about buying a city or an entire village because you need the people that are in there. But it would depend on, since I guess any city, every city, every village, the whole system is debt. But when the system resets, that debt gets to be paid off with dollars that have, in this country anyway, basically no value. It's a good question because I really haven't thought about an entire city or an entire village, but it would be the same. You'd have to pay off that debt.
I think one thing that you had brought up that is a overlooked aspect of that is like municipal services, right? If we're talking about a city having the ability to go in and make sure those maintain functionality, that also kind of goes into that too. If you could have the deal with no debt and you still have the ability to keep services running too.
That's really a lot of the challenge, right?
Right.
And I guess it depends on how big the village or
how
big the city is.
Yeah. What kind of infrastructure is
I'm
already
a pretty
there.
big thinker, but I didn't even think that big.
Yeah. Like that'd be like you'd be looking at a really big project and you'd want multiple people probably getting into that because you're going to need to look at a lot of different aspects from that perspective. It's one thing to say, well, I have a lot of this so we can pay off a lot of debt that might be attached to a city. But then how do you keep that city functioning and running? You need civil engineers. You need people that can,
Well, I think it also depends on the size.
Right, the size.
Right?
Yeah, correct.
Because like in unincorporated areas, right, you don't have the same level of service, right? There are no police. You have volunteer fire departments. So all of those things that we've gotten used to, if you're in an unincorporated area, you really don't have any of those. But it's the community that comes together to make everything work, the roads and the fire department and all of that.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. That's the community part for unincorporated, or more like the village kind of sense. Like, goes right back to what you said with the baby in Africa. That village, that's the community.
Exactly. Exactly. So good question. Interesting question. And from Instagram, Darcy Gerspach Swenson asks, hi, need comfort right now on precious metals. Yes. Look, it was speculation. These markets, every single asset in this market has been turned into a trading vehicle for the banks to make money on. Nothing goes straight up. Nothing goes straight down. There's bouncing along the way, but what you really look at when it's speculation is paper, digital. It's not real. The market for the 33 entities that use gold, or the 36 different entities that use the physical silver, did not evaporate. It is those paper contracts. And I warned you guys, when it was running up and everybody was all happy because the spot price was running up, I said, be careful, because that's speculation. We don't want the speculation in the markets. Not only that, but we're still above the 200-day moving average in both spot gold and spot silver. It doesn't matter. They're both in long-term positive trends, because what the central banks are fighting is deflation. You know how you fight deflation? There's only one way. Thank you.
I knew it. I knew it was coming.
I'm training him.
But yeah, very true.
But that's how you fight it. So buy, right? Buy. As Kramer, who I'm not really a big fan of, but that's what he's got,
like
this
the
thing.
squawk
Goes,
box?
buy. You know, that could be another conversation. Anybody wants this video, I have the link. I can give it to you, of Kramer on air telling everybody how easy it is to manipulate a market, because he did it all the time and it was fun.
Yeah.
You want that video? Call your strategy specialist. Make sure that I'll get, have Jessica, she can get the link out, or I can get the link out, and you can hear that. So, Darcy, just ignore the noise. That's all it is. It's not real. It's fiction. And how many times can you be lied to when you do not know the truth? What I'm trying to show you in all of these videos is the truth. And then that puts you in a position to make educated choices that, oh my goodness, put your best interest first. Don't believe their lies. That's their job. They're just doing their job, and that's to transfer your wealth their way and to keep you away from the only thing in a hyperinflationary event, this in community, you got to have that food, water, energy, etc. This is your foundation. You got to have all of it. So I hope that gave you the comfort that you need, because it doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't make me go, oh no, this is no good. Demand 33 and probably more. That's just what I could count. I got the whole list. You want it? We'll send it to you. But how many places, you commingled, how many places is this stuff in? One.
Yeah.
Right? It's just in the financial system. That's it. That's it.
And your Bitcoin?
One.
Right.
Right? 33. 36. This is the fight of our lives. You want to go in there unarmed? Because that's what this is. And frankly, I know people will disagree with this, but it hasn't been tested yet. The test is nigh. One place, 33 places, 36 places. These are your bazookas. It's just that simple. I hope that helps you, Darcy. If it doesn't, let me know. I'll work on something else to help you with it, because I don't want you to believe the lie. And I actually am doing it. I just didn't have everything that I needed, but I'm having Kelly work on some charts. So I know that I'll be able to get it done for next week, is the spot market lie.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going all the way back to the beginning of it. You're going to see it for yourself. Don't believe the lies. And GQI01 also, should we try to save agricultural land? Yes. After revaluation, buying a max of land to keep the elites from accessing it. Same for buying a plant nursery. Yeah, you can't live without food, and they want to take over all the food, right, because then they can put GMOs in it. You know, when I was just in New Zealand, one of the things that the food was phenomenal. It seriously was. And I got to eat lots of corn, which I never get to eat anymore. I grew up on it, but I won't eat it because 98% of the corn that's grown in the U.S. is GMO corn. No, thank you. So they're battling the big corporations coming in with GMOs there.
Yep.
Everybody I talked to said, you got to fight this. You've got to fight this, because that's the pharmaceutical companies. They own the insurance companies. They own all the private equity. They own everything, but it's also all done on debt.
Yeah.
That's our opportunity. If you're holding sound money, that's our opportunity. But agriculture, absolutely, 100%. Plant nursery, yep, and no GMO. I personally, you do whatever you want, but personally, as we're doing plantings on the property, we use slow growth. Like our chickens are slow growth. We use non-GMO seeds, so heirloom seeds. Right. We don't buy from nurseries like some of those big box stores. I guess I won't use the names, but you guys know which ones I'm talking about. The big box stores, because they spray crap on their plants to keep them small until you get them. Is that really what you want to put in your soil? Because then that goes into the food that you eat. So we have to be conscious and vote with our wallets. And if that's what you're going to support, then they're going to keep doing it.
Right.
They've got deeper pockets than you and I do, and they're buying the government. No, we have to fight that. So yes, I love agricultural land. Absolutely love it. And Miramore asks, hi, Lynette, what do you think 9F, or I think you meant of, every $2/$300 transaction reported? Better to limit activity or overwhelm banks with little transactions and strangle them? What do I think of every... I think you're thinking 2,300 rather than 2 to 300. It's perception management. How many of you out there that are sitting there think that you can't take $10,000 or more out of your account without that being reported somewhere, or pulling it out? You've been to the bank lately to get cash? What are you doing with it? Come on. It's about getting you to police yourself. So if you think that they're going to report a $2,300 transaction, are you doing anything illegal? No. Is it illegal to pull $2,300 out or put $2,300? No. So what is the point in that? Perception management. Oh my God, they're going to report it. I'm going to get into trouble.
Right.
Somebody's going to show up. If you're not doing anything illegal, and I would never, ever, ever suggest you do anything illegal. If you're not doing anything illegal, who cares? It's about getting you to march the way they want you to march, volunteering it. That's what it's about, just like that $10,000 limit.
Right.
You have any comments on that?
We did kind of talk about that as well when we did the capital incarceration piece, where you go in to get your own. Well, we perceive it as our own money. It's not really yours. You've lent it to the bank legally, but you want to redeem that out of their system. Next thing you know, you're having to sit down with the wealth management team, and they're gonna, right, like you said, interrogate you. And are you sure? And what are you doing with this? What is it going toward?
We're just trying to protect you from yourself.
Right. Yeah, because it's almost like they don't want you to think that you can make your own decisions with your own money. And we run into it, not, I wouldn't say all the time, but we run into, I had 2 clients pretty much back to back last year that were wanting to get their fiat, convert it into real sound money, and were told by their banking institutions, well, sorry, we can't do that, or, well, that's going to take some time. When, what happens when you don't have time, right? So just knowing that I don't know if what you want to say about small transactions to strangle them. I don't know about that, but
it's just making you small. It's making your world smaller and smaller and smaller. They've been doing it with the law changes and regulation changes, right?
Yeah.
But it's also about perception management.
Right, exactly.
Because they need you to volunteer.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah. If you can make the majority of the people fall in line, then I think it was Larry Ellison, the CEO of Oracle, that said on the end of an earnings call last year in 2025, their goal is to just have a camera on everybody and make sure everybody's on their best behavior.
Well, they get to define what that best behavior
Right.
is. And that, really that's the problem.
Yeah.
A full surveillance economy where your paycheck, everything goes through their system. They can see how you're spending your money. They can determine if they don't want, it's social scoring, right?
Exactly.
If you say something against them, this brings us to another point, which is coming together to help each other instead of being pushed apart. There was a day, like I was in a debate club in high school. I love a good debate, right? A good debate, you learn things on both sides, and it's really a lot of fun.
It is.
How much debating do you hear anymore?
I think it's kind of devolved into just,
If you don't agree with me, I hate your guts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that we need to bring those conversations back.
Yeah.
That's why when we're doing these lives, there are no questions that are off limits unless it's bigoted, because those I won't do. But anything other than that, we want to open conversation. We want to understand each other and have empathy. And I will tell you, it's a divide and conquer mechanism.
Right.
And that they've been working on for actually quite some time, since the 70s in reality, but never did that show up more than 2020.
Oh, yeah. That was I think they threw everything that they possibly could into there with lockdowns and then civil unrest here in the state. I think really everywhere you saw it, Australia and in Europe. To your point too about, the Bitcoin. This isn't really Bitcoin. They
it's a physical representation.
Right.
Did you notice how the gold is wearing off of this? Because that's supposed to be digital gold.
Right. Yeah.
This protective case for this piece of garbage.
But to go to your point about this being, an untested thing, as it's been more regulated, you're seeing every 3-letter agency have their fingers in this. So to the exact point of, if you say something against X, Y, or Z, we saw it happen with the truckers in Canada. What makes you think that they won't just turn that off, right?
Right. They will. People think that the internet is beyond governments. I don't think so. And it keeps coming up again and again and again.
Right.
Wait. Isn't insanity doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results?
Yeah.
Right? They're showing you, my mom used to tell me this, when you meet somebody, they will tell you who they are. Your job is to believe them.
Yeah.
Right? Look at what they're telling you. believe them. They're showing you, they will cut you out,
Yeah.
that there's only one way to think, and it's not, so I like diversity. I like to have different conversations. I don't have to agree, but when you have those kind of conversations, we can all learn, and we're all in a much better position than when we started.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think it's about strangling the banks. I think it's about getting you to volunteer your freedom. That's what I think it's about. And we have time for maybe one or two more questions. Photo Pro 100. He does not run the money print. He does not run the money printer as fast as Lynette. I'm more practiced. That's all. He'll get there.
I'm just trying to be nice to Tom, okay?
Yeah, poor Tom. But then he doesn't have to go to the gym.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Sorry,
That's
Tom.
funny.
You're going to have to reach up high for the next one.
Yep. And this is from Gia Q101. What are the most important assets to buy during revaluation to protect our sovereignty and oppose this dystopian system? Well, that's what we're talking about. It's, you have to look around where you are, but agricultural land is great. When I drive through Phoenix, right, I think to myself, do I want to own that apartment building? Do I want to own that parking lot? Parking lots are great. They're just kind of cash cows.
They are.
But you need to be strategic. Do I want to own that government building? Because desperate governments, they sell their income-producing assets, but you don't want a police station that's way out in the boonies. Right. You want the main one. And so you buy it from them, and then they immediately start paying you rent. So there are a number of assets that are important to buy, but it depends on what you have to work with. So a great example would be this one client that I had in New York, this older woman. And boy, she just wanted to buy investment real estate. But she didn't have anybody to help manage it. And I don't think that she was really quite capable of managing it herself. So that wouldn't be something. She needs more passive income.
Right.
So that's what also will get to the point. You'll have that conversation with your strategy specialist to see what tools you have to manage your income and wealth when it's time to convert into those income-producing assets. So that's one reason why this is not just a transaction with us. This is an ongoing relationship even after the reset is done.
Yeah.
That's why we're future-proofing this company. That's why Kenneth is here. I'm not going anywhere, guys. I mean, I'm strong and healthy, and I'm committed. Maybe I should be committed. I don't know. But it takes a village. It really does to run everything. So understand that this is a living, breathing strategy. It will always be based on your goals and your circumstances, right? So just continue to be in touch, right? Continue to have those conversations. If something changes, let us know what has changed so that we can update and make sure that we are with you lockstep the whole way.
I absolutely. I tell everyone that's the beauty of the strategy. We can go in and we can change any part of it, and it will dynamically update to let you know, well, okay, now your barter position looks like this. Now you're getting that debt extinguished looks like this, or this is what that safety net looks like for if that 401k gets bigger or something happens. People get inheritances. We have people that have all sorts of things happen. And that really what that initial conversation would look like with your strategy specialist, if you haven't had it yet, is, hey, where are you at? What are your goals? And how can we meet you where you're at to help you get to where you want to be?
Exactly.
Everybody's got a different goal. Some people have no heirs. Some people have heirs. But the strategy is a total comprehensive coverage for what you need. That's the beauty of it, right?
And isn't it also like living and breathing?
Yeah.
So if you're starting here and these are the assets that you have and these are the goals that you have, if that changes, if you get an inheritance or you need some, you need some liquidity or what have you, right? It's living, breathing, and it can change. But we're here to help you all along the way. And, you can see we're together all the time, especially now that we're in the new office.
Right. Everybody's just in their space, and it's amazing. And having the live down in the amphitheater, that's
I'm
going to
so
be
excited. I'm so excited.
That's like the whole thing we've been waiting for, huh? Like
For 2 years. It will be 2 years on May 1st that we signed the lease, and we finally are in our offices.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Thank you guys for putting up with the glitches that we have had today and for being here. I can't even tell you how much it means to all of us, really. And we are all here to be of service. And I know that together we can accomplish anything, even getting, dare I say it again, redeemable gold back in the global monetary system so the public has the power in their hands. And until next we meet, wherever you are in the world, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.